Good afternoon. I'm Michael Novacek, Senior Vice President and Provost of Science, and I have the honor and privilege of course, welcoming you here to the American Museum of Natural History's Inaugural Commencement for the Gilder Graduate School and the Masters of Arts teaching program. Some great degree-granting schools have museums on their campuses. Now we can truly say that this museum virtually uniquely has a degree-granting school on its campus. When I was a young student, I dreamed of a school that would get me out of the classroom, get me out in the field, out on expeditions, teach me not only the fundamentals of biology and geology, but help me gain experience in driving a Jeep, pitching a tent, finding a route in some empty desert. A school that would also have great things around, collections that I could get my hands on and scrutinize at close range. The Gilder School was designed to serve such dreams. Our graduates today will lead the way for succeeding classes. They are already experts on organisms, evolutionary principles, scientific methods, and technology. They are already experienced field explorers, already successful at mapping genes, imaging intricate structures, or taking on hugely complex problems in quantitative biology. And of course, in writing persuasive grant proposals and compelling scientific papers. But the school, in its highly successful first years, shows that our students are not only here to absorb, they also deliver. Scientific enterprise is a partnership, is shared by the teacher and student. It's a two-way street. I was part of the team working with our museum president, Ellen Futter, to make the school a reality. Many of my scientific colleagues here will recall as well those meetings and conversations, which often included a key statement of enlightened self-interest. We need those students. They are good for our science. We need those young eyes looking outward in this, the most important environmental century in the evolution of the human species, where societal needs for natural science museums and the work they do and the people who work and train there have never been greater. And you too, Masters of Teaching graduates, have the awesome and exciting responsibility of cultivating at an earlier stage those future scientists. In our day of celebration, we thank our great dean, John Flynn, for all the work he has done in bringing us to this day, as well as honoring our graduates and the classes that follow them. Of course, such an important, such a historic step for the museum would not have been possible without the vision, encouragement, enlightened counsel, and support of our Board of Trustees, including Dick Gilder himself. And who better to represent the vision and the support of trustee leadership than our board chairman, Louis Bernard. Louis, please.
Thank you, Mike. On behalf of the trustees of the American Museum of Natural History, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome all of you today to this momentous occasion, the inaugural commencement of the Richard Gilder Graduate School. Today is the culmination of many years of hard work to realize a vision to extend the museum's scientific and educational mission by establishing a degree-granting graduate school. We are deeply grateful to all who have labored to bring us to this moment. First, our thanks goes to the New York State Board of Regents, represented here today by Chancellor Merrill Tisch and Commissioner John King. You have been great supporters and partners to the museum in this process. Second, a bow to our scientists and educators, led by Provost Mike Novacek and Dean John Flynn. They developed and implemented an innovative program in comparative biology. Finally, and most importantly, to our Ph.D. graduates, you have astonished us. We deeply appreciate the trust and confidence you showed in committing your future to us as our first cohort. Thank you so very, very much. There is, of course, one name that stands out today, the name of Richard Gilder. Once again, with tremendous foresight vision, he underwrote our initial sortie into this field. We are here today as he helps us to realize what was a dream only a half a dozen years ago. The initial success that we had in the Ph.D. program at the Gilder Graduate School emboldened the board to authorize in 2010 a pilot program with the state to grant a master's degree in teaching. I salute Sybil Golden, Norma Hess, the National Science Foundation, and especially Catherine Davis for providing support to our students. I honor and thank Maritza McDonald and Ro Kinsler and their team. You have been heroic. The proof is in the highly qualified teachers before us today. To you, the students, and also to the faculty, I express our deep thanks. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce Ellen Futter, our president. Simply put, it has been her extraordinary leadership which has been the key to our success. Ellen?
Thank you, Louis. Good afternoon to all. What a happy, happy occasion, and it is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to our very first commencement of the Richard Gilder Graduate School at the American Museum of Natural History, and in so doing, to offer our great appreciation and admiration to the museum's trustees who embraced and supported this groundbreaking graduate school and doctoral and master's programs, and especially, as others have said, but it cannot be said too many times, to Richard Gilder, for whom the graduate school is named in recognition of his vision, his generosity. Dick, can I prevail upon you to stand for one moment so we can thank you properly? And great admiration and appreciation as well to our partners at the New York State Board of Regents, represented here today by Chancellor Merrill Tisch and Commissioner John King, whose bold authorization made it all possible. Thank you both so much. In addition, and moving closer to home, I extol our distinguished honorary degree recipient, Dame Alison Richard, about whom you'll hear more shortly, and of course, our esteemed faculty who designed and implemented these pioneering initiatives, and most especially, hearty congratulations to all of the graduates and their families, and I invite you all to applaud them now. This is truly a historic occasion. Today we confer the first museum PhD degrees on 7 extraordinary young scientists from the Richard Gilder Graduate School's Comparative Biology program. And we confer Regents Master of Arts degrees in teaching Earth and Space Science on 20 glorious new science teachers, who we are also Catherine W. Davis Graduate Teaching Fellows. Importantly, though, this is not only a milestone for this museum, but also for the museum field and more broadly for higher education, because we are the first museum in the United States authorized to grant the Ph.D. degree, as well as the first American museum to offer a freestanding master's program in teaching science. And the significance of this is profound, because throughout this country, universities, policymakers, school systems, institutions, businesses, and families are struggling to improve education in this country, particularly science education. The museum's Gilder Graduate School and our PhD and master's programs speak directly to this issue by adding new participants and new approaches to addressing it. And while that may sound obvious, as many in this room know all too well, in fact, it is not only innovative, but downright revolutionary. It required an orchestra of intrepid, far-sighted, committed players, trustees, regents, curators, educators, and of course, students, all with a pioneering instinct of exploration, discovery, and adventure that fully matches this museum's own animating spirit. And yet, in many ways for this museum, the Gilder Graduate School and the attendant offerings feel like a perfectly natural next step. Well, perhaps leap in the evolution of this institution. The museum's 1869 charter declared a twin mission of pursuing scientific discovery and educating the public, with the latter rather quaintly described as popular instruction. And the museum has advanced both of those, scientific research and education, for nearly 150 years, adapting our approaches to suit the needs and opportunities of each generation and each era. People have always known and loved us, of course, for our dinosaurs, the planetarium, and the great blue whale over our heads today, among many other icons and treasures. But as you all know well, we are also a place with traditional collections of 32 million specimens and artifacts, as well as new ones of frozen tissue, vast amounts of data, along with a world-class natural history library. A scientific staff of 200 who pursue research and field expeditions around the world and in our cutting-edge molecular laboratories and imaging facilities. An institution that has, for many decades, trained future scientists in partnership with leading universities, that has extensive expertise in the professional development of K-12 teachers and in working formally with schools. And of course, a place that has always, through exhibitions and programs, inspired wonder and curiosity in young and old alike, increasingly employing the latest technologies to reach more people in the farthest corners of the world in more effective ways. And so we stand today with a foundation of more than a century of path-breaking scientific discovery and science education behind us, as well as continual updating of the ways we present science, nature, culture, and the cosmos to generation after generation of children, families, the general public, New Yorkers and visitors from all over the globe alike. But today we celebrate not only the graduation of our very first doctoral and master's candidates, a high watermark to be sure in and of itself, but also a deeper and more profound integration of the museum's own twin mission of science and education and the seizing of an expanded and more explicit role in preparing the next generation of scientists, the next generation of science teachers, and by extension, through the good work that all of you graduates will do and everything else that this museum does every day, the next generation of scientifically literate citizens. Today is a culmination not only of the enormous potential and promise of this particular, and in the humble home court opinion here, extraordinary museum, but also of a new way of being a museum in the 21st century. A new manifestation of being a museum that retains and enhances the glories of the museum visit, on site and online, while extending the reach of our science and educational enterprise in pioneering ways that can and are being replicated by other institutions as we take a more active role in helping to fuel education reform in this country. And how could it be otherwise? In a century marked by change, urgent and vexing global issues, burgeoning technology, and increasing interdependence among peoples and fields. A time in which science and technology are drivers of much of that change, at the same time that they offer solutions to much of what ails us as a global community. In short, a time that calls for the reshaping of the roles of the very pillars of our society, including this museum. No longer a mere cabinet of curiosities are we, but rather a very fit Darwinian hybrid, part museum, part university, part scientific institute, part K through 12, and lifelong learning center, playing an increasingly central role in society and in the lives of individuals. And of course, this is made possible by the stars of today's commencement. Our brilliant faculty, our esteemed honoree, Alison Richard, and of course, our exceptional graduates, Ph.D. and master's candidates both. For all of our world-class collections and the magnificent galleries here at the museum, in the end, it is, as always, people who make all the difference. Because science is not just an object or a fact or a theory. It is a process, an engagement of all that makes us human. Mind, heart, spirit, and yes, sweat. Fueled by the fervent hope of understanding the world around us more deeply and by the passion to try to make it better. It is among the greatest of human enterprises. And similarly, teaching is among the noblest of endeavors, inspiring, equipping, and leading others to find their own journeys of discovery and achievement, with the conviction that everyone, everywhere, should have the opportunity to be enriched and elevated through the power of knowledge and education. And so, at this historic moment of great institutional pride and great personal achievement by our graduates, on behalf of the entire museum family, I congratulate our graduates. You are the embodiment of what makes this museum so very special and of our hopes for a better world. Please know that you will always have a home here and will always occupy a very special place in museum history. While many will follow in your footsteps, you will always be the first. Congratulations to you all. And now may I ask Dame Alison Richard and Provost Michael Novacek to join me for the conferring of the honorary degree. Alison F. Richard, eminent biological anthropologist and academic leader whose impact is felt throughout the scientific community and more broadly in society. Your extraordinary life and career have embraced scientific research, education, and biodiversity conservation. And in this way, you embody the very mission of the American Museum of Natural History. Native of Kent, UK, you received your undergraduate degree in archaeology and anthropology from Cambridge University, your Master of Arts also from Cambridge, and your doctorate from London University, before embarking on a distinguished career as a researcher and academic leader. Acclaimed leader in higher education, you have been professor and provost of Yale University, where as provost you oversaw the enhancement of academic programs, including substantial growth in scientific research and educational capacity. You also served as director of Yale Peabody Museum of Natural History, where you effected significant improvements to one of the most important university-based natural history collections in the world. You then served as vice-chancellor of the University of Cambridge, the first woman to assume this position full-time. And for your service to higher education in 2010, you were awarded the honor of Dame Commander of the British Empire. How cool is that? Highly influential researcher, you have devoted your scientific career to expanding understanding of the evolution of complex social systems among primates, most notably studying the socioecology of lemurs in Madagascar, where you have worked since 1970. Your research has yielded many valuable insights into primate behavior, demography, reproductive biology, genetics, and responses to environmental variability. Strong and effective advocate for environmental and biodiversity conservation, you also have led substantial conservation efforts worldwide, especially in Madagascar, where you have worked tirelessly in collaboration with Malagasy partners and communities to protect the unique habitats and wildlife of these remarkable and threatened ecosystems, while striving to enhance the socioeconomic opportunities for the people who depend on the forest, creating a depth of understanding about the complex interactions between humans and other species within these natural systems. And so, with great admiration, we honor you on this, the first commencement of the Richard Gilder Graduate School, for your extraordinary contributions to the advancement of science, enhancing education, and promoting conservation. With the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees, it is an honor and a privilege to confer upon you, Alison F. Richard, the degree of Doctor of Science honoris causa, with all the rights and privileges pertaining thereto. I give you Dame Alison Richard.
Thank you. I'm very honored. So in terms of what I would like to say, the first is congratulations to the graduates. It's wonderful. To all the students graduating today, I salute you. To those who are receiving your PhDs, my special congratulations. It is a great achievement to a doctorate, and it's a long, hard road. It's a really hard thing to do, and I think it's wonderful, and it's a great celebration today. And echoing Ellen, I would also like to salute and congratulate your long-suffering family and friends who have supported you every step of the way, and I dare say put up with you from time to time. So hooray for you as well. And of course, I congratulate and salute your advisors and mentors who have guided you along the path to where you are today. You have all, in one form or another, been engaged in the study of evolution. And I would submit to you that natural history museums also evolve, and that you stand at this time, at this moment, at a very interesting, exciting, and important phase in the evolution of this natural history museum, and actually, I would say more broadly, of natural history museums in general. But this museum is the epitome and the embodiment of the best of natural history museums. And I say that even as a former director at the Peabody Museum of Natural History. This is sort of A great, great place. So why do I talk about the evolution of natural history museums? Well, as you will know, they emerged out of cabinets of curiosities in the 17th century and through into the 18th century. In the 19th century, natural history museums went through their first great flowering. This one, founded in 1869. It was a great age of collecting. It was the age of Charles Darwin. It was an age of wonderment in the way that the natural world was actually put together. And people went forth and they collected. And that went on into the 20th century. But then you start to look at this enormous pile of stuff that has accumulated. And a good piece of the 20th century, if truth be told, was spent by people inside and outside natural history museums, scratching their heads somewhat and wondering, what do you do with all this stuff? Millions of objects in bottles, outside bottles, pressed, dried, frozen. They came in every form, but it was just an overwhelming abundance of nature. So my analysis is that there was something of a sort of paralysis in the state of affairs until the late 20th century. I'd put the date 20 years ago, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But at that time, there was a mighty convergence that took place, and it is the convergence of new technology, of new science, that first of all allowed for collections to be made accessible through information technology in a whole new way. And so the stuff becomes accessible for science. But science also allows one to read the book of collections in new and different ways. There are new ways of studying these objects in these natural history museums. So thanks to science and technology, there is an absolute transformation in the meaning and value of the collections of great natural history museums. But that's just one dimension of what happened. The other dimension is that the world began to wake up to the global environmental challenge of our times. The crisis for biodiversity, the crisis with global climate change. And here, now, in this moment, you graduates are embodying the great challenge that is facing us, but also the capacity to actually gather up your brains, your intellects, your skills, and your capabilities to work on these challenges that we face. And that array of work is very broad. I believe that it needs to be grounded in the finest science, and you do the finest science. And you do it by crossing boundaries, as students have not done, I think, in the past. You cross boundaries between the lab and the field, thanks to the traditions of this mighty museum. You cross boundaries between disciplines, thanks to the mighty traditions of this museum. You also cross boundaries between institutions, as this mighty museum increasingly looks out and into collaboration and partnerships with universities. These are all wonderful developments. And so I would say to you in closing, simply, I echo my congratulations. And today is above all a day for celebration. But don't overlook the fact that as you end something today, you also begin something going forward. And the importancy and the urgency of the task of science that lies before you now has never been more important. But you come out of such a wonderful, strong institution. I know that you will flourish, and because I am deeply an optimist, I know that you are going to make the world a better place. It's as simple as that. So my congratulations, and thank you again for inviting me here today and honoring me as you have. Thank you.
Earlier, I thanked Dean John Flynn, for his leadership of the Gilder School, and now I have the pleasure to introduce him. John.
Thank you, Mike, and thank all of you. In thinking about the day ahead of us, I remember that this museum was founded 4 short years after the end of the Civil War. Yet in that period of tumult and change, there were some visionary New Yorkers that decided that New York needed a place of learning, of education, of research, and created in the middle of a swamp, a field of dreams, this museum. 140 years later, minus a year, another group of New Yorkers had that same sort of vision and said, we grew from a very small place to have 5 million visitors a year, 32 million objects, and profoundly important research endeavors. We can also build a graduate school. And that graduate school was a field of dreams that required someone to occupy that field. So 5 short years ago, think about that, 5 years ago was the first students to come to our program. An intrepid group of biological explorers committed to embark on this journey with us in the recently founded Gilder Graduate School and our unique and distinctive Comparative Biology Ph.D. program. Today we're celebrating the inaugural commencement for this program with conferral of Doctor of Philosophy degrees on 7 exceptional students. And you'll hear something about the breadth that Alison mentioned in terms of their research in a moment, from the first 2 classes that enrolled in 2008 and 2009, as well as having the privilege and excitement of honoring our Masters of Arts in Teaching degrees to the graduates of our program in partnership with the New York State Board of Regents. So we are chartered and accredited by the Board of Regents and the Education Department of the state of New York. We encompass the museum's university-level programs across undergraduate internships, PhD training, and postdoctoral fellow programs. So I'd like to welcome former and current New York State Education Department staff who've worked so closely with us to make this field of dreams come true. I also want to, prior to the conferral of the degrees, acknowledge the members of our broader Richard Gilder Graduate School academic community, because it truly is a community that spans the whole institution and across the city. So leaders in their fields, our 50 faculty members and emeritus professors will enable us to continue to be a leader in comparative biology for generations to come. I'd like to acknowledge this outstanding faculty by asking them to stand for recognition, please. We've mentioned 7 PhD graduates today that we're celebrating, but they are part of a community within this comparative biology program of 18 other students who are enrolled and striving to reach the same landmark moment that our 7 graduates have. They're studying a diverse array of topics, and I'd like to ask them to stand for acknowledgement as well. Beyond the community within our comparative biology program, we have a rich and vibrant series of scholars that are affiliated with us in many different ways. We have had more than 40 PhD students are enrolled in our programs in collaboration and partnership with long-standing collaborations with area universities. These include the City University of New York, Columbia, Cornell, NYU, and Stony Brook. So over the same past year and a half of these 7 graduates have completed their degrees, 7 additional graduates have completed their PhDs in our partnership programs, so we congratulate them on their accomplishments. In addition, the vibrancy of this academic community is greatly enriched by a group of more than 40 exceptional postdoctoral fellows. They work closely with our students, they work closely with our faculty, they work independently, and they advance the mission in education and science in a way that is something that is very hard to express in words. I want to acknowledge all of our partner students and our postdoctoral fellows, so please stand as well. On behalf of the faculty, provost, president, and museum trustees, it's now my pleasure to recognize our exceptional group of inaugural graduates for conferral of their Doctor of Philosophy degrees in Comparative Biology from the Richard Gilder Graduate School at the American Museum of Natural History. I'm going to ask each one of them to come to the stage with their advisors for conferral of the degrees and their doctoral hoods in the order in which they defended their dissertation and completed their degree requirements, which are noted in your programs. Sebastian Fist. Sebastian's doctoral dissertation was entitled A Phylogenomic Perspective on Annelid Evolution, with emphasis on the evolution of blood-feeding in leeches, Clitellata hirudinida. I'm pleased to invite Sebastian and his advisor, Mark Siddall, onto the stage for conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. Shana A. Montanari. Shana's doctoral dissertation was entitled Paleobiology, Paleoecology, and Morphology of Vertebrates, New Approaches to Old Questions. I'm pleased to invite Shana and her advisor, Mark Norell, onto the stage for conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. I also note that I'm proud to have served as Shana's co-advisor. Antonia M. Florio. Antonia's doctoral dissertation was entitled Comparative Phylogeography of Widespread Furcifer Chameleons in Madagascar. I'm pleased to invite Antonia and her advisor, Chris Raxworthy, onto stage for the conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. Brian G. Falk. Brian's doctoral dissertation was entitled Diversification of Malaria and Pinworm Parasites in Caribbean Anolis Lizards. I'm pleased to invite Brian and his advisor, Susan Perkins, onto the stage for conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. They practice that. Isabel M. Vea. Isabel's doctoral dissertation was entitled A Time for Scales, Reconciling Neontology and Paleontology in Coccoidea hemiptera. I'm pleased to invite Isabel and her advisor, Dave Grimaldi, and her co-advisor, Toby Hsu, onto the stage for conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. John S. Denton. John's dissertation was entitled Evolution and Diversification of Myctopiform Fishes with Applications to Phylogenetic Methodology. I'm pleased to invite John, his advisor Melanie Stiasny, and his co-advisor Ward Wheeler onto the stage for conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. Edward L. Stanley. Ed's doctoral dissertation was entitled Systematics and Morphological Diversification of the Chordilidae squamata. I'm pleased to invite Ed and his advisor Darrell Frost onto the stage for conferral of the Doctor of Philosophy degree. This inaugural commencement of the Richard Gilder Graduate School provides an opportunity to both celebrate our graduates and to reflect on the great challenges and the opportunities that lie before us. Today's graduates from our doctoral program and from our partnership MAT program to follow in this ceremony provide compelling testaments to the far-sighted vision and deep commitment of our staff, administration, trustees, and supporters in creating innovations and innovative systems for advancing scientific education. Thank you all for celebrating their achievements and this endeavor with us today.
Thank you, John, and one more round of applause for the graduates. Bravo. And the faculty. And now we turn to the Master of Arts in Teaching. It is my very great pleasure to introduce our partners from New York State's Board of Regents who will confer the Regents' Master's degrees. Merrill Tisch has been a key member of the New York State Board of Regents for nearly 2 decades and Chancellor since 2009. She is truly a trailblazer in education, nationally recognized for her advocacy of best practices and the highest standards. And trust me, I know her well, and she is. Her leadership and vision helped ensure that New York was one of the states awarded a race-to-the-top funding opportunity from the U.S. Department of Education, which in turn led to the master's program we are celebrating today. John King comes from a family of educators and was himself a teacher and principal. He is nationally recognized as an education leader, particularly dedicated to lifting student achievement, devoted to urban minority youth, and committed to improving college and workforce readiness. He also has been key to securing race-to-the-top funding for the state and has been pivotal in New York's adoption of the Common Core. Both Chancellor Tisch and Commissioner King have given full-throated support for this program, for which we are enormously grateful. Both recognize the potential of institutions like this museum to contribute unique capacity and resources to teacher preparation. We thank you both, and we thank the entire team from New York State's Education Department for your extraordinary confidence and support, and we are so pleased that you are all here today. It is my pleasure now to invite Commissioner King to say a few words. John?
Let me say on behalf of the Board of Regents, a let me give a strong message of congratulations to Ellen, to the leadership of the museum, to Dick Gilder, and most importantly to the students. This is an important moment to be celebrated. 4 years ago, when we started on this journey, the Board of Regents asked my predecessor, David Steiner, and me to focus on teacher preparation because of a clear understanding that what matters most for students' experience at school is the effectiveness of the student's teacher and the support that teacher receives from that teacher's principal. We understood that we face a challenge in urban education, that nearly half or more of our teachers leave after the first few years of teaching in our urban schools, that we have an obligation to prepare an urban teaching workforce that is prepared to help students close the staggering achievement gaps we face as a state. The Board of Regents asked us to focus on teacher preparation because they are not satisfied with a 74% graduation rate as a state. They are not satisfied with the fact that less than half of our graduates graduate high school prepared to succeed in college and careers. And they are not satisfied that 50 years after the March on Washington, we still face a 30-point achievement gap in graduation rates and academic performance. So the task was to ask, how could we conceive of a new kind of approach to teacher preparation that would focus on clinical preparation, on teachers' experience in the classroom, while ensuring that teachers had the content knowledge and pedagogical knowledge to help their students excel. And so they asked us in the Race to the Top application to launch a competition for institutions that would help to build this new model of teacher preparation focused on areas of teaching where we have the greatest need: science, mathematics, serving our English language learners and our students with disabilities, serving our highest needs communities. And we were thrilled that the museum was one of those selected for this program because the museum brings exactly the resources that we need to transform teaching and learning in the state. The museum's tradition around research and the pursuit of knowledge is exactly the answer to what we need in teacher preparation. The museum's tradition around creating environments for students where they fall in love with learning. One need only look around this room, and all of us probably recall the time when we first came in this room, for many of us on a school field trip. We need to only look around this room to remember that what teaching is about sparking that love of learning. And the museum has a long history of doing exactly that. And importantly, the museum has a long history of supporting teachers in their professional development with special attention to the highest needs schools. And so this class of graduates represents exactly the vision that the Regents articulated in 2009. It represents the best of what is possible in public policy. We face a problem, and here we have an institution and a community of people committed to solving that problem in the right way with the right resources. And this class of graduates from this teacher training program will now go into schools and create incredible opportunities for students. Inspire them around learning, help them prepare for college and career success, and help them to prepare to be great citizens who can contribute to their communities, to our state, and to our country. So the Chancellor Tisch and I are thrilled to be here to celebrate this event. We congratulate the students. We look forward to visiting your classrooms. So be careful at any moment. We might walk through the door to visit your classrooms and to see the incredible impact that you are having on students. Let me say finally that the Ph.D. students, I want to extend congratulations to you. The contributions you will make to knowledge and the pursuit of knowledge are critically important, and I look forward to the master's students getting to teach their students in new ways because of the things that you will learn in your research. So again, we are thrilled to be here. Congratulations, and thank you to this community for creating this great moment.
Thank you, John. In just one moment, I'm going to invite the 4 individuals responsible for the design and implementation of our master's program to join me on the stage. But before I do, because this person isn't coming on the stage, I want to thank also our Senior Vice President responsible for education, Lisa Guggenheim, for her role in making this master's degree program possible. Thank you so much. We call our Master's in Teaching program innovative for many reasons, but key among them is that it has been developed as a true partnership between the museum's world-class scientists and master educators, led by 4 exceptional individuals who have worked so hard to make this a reality and who I'm pleased to invite for the conferral of the degrees. They are the program's co-directors, Maritza McDonald, the museum's Senior Director of Education Policy, Dr. Rosamund Kinsler, Senior Director and for Science Education, and from the museum's Division of Physical Sciences, Dr. Edmund Mattei, Curator of the Earth and Planetary Sciences Division, and Dr. Mordecai Mark Macklow, Curator of Astrophysics. I am delighted to welcome all 4 of them to the stage now.
Do we start now? Okay. Wilfred Bozil. Duncan Blair. John P. Clark. Carl C. Clark. Christopher M. Cubello. Jasmine Charish de Costa. Congratulations. Lisa D. Hinkla. Victoria P. Jones. Kristen E. LaPenta. Christina Lee.
I'd like to bring up Tyler Lyons. Sean P. McFadden. Andrew O. Nesheim. Bart F. Piscitello. John Joseph Rowett. Reed J. Sherman. Melissa Schumer. Yevgeny Wiederman. Catherine Warner. Todd R. Whalen.
And so our inaugural commencement comes to an end. Once again, I thank our honoree, Dame Richards, Chancellor Tisch, Commissioner King, our administrators, faculty, teachers, scientists, and now our graduates. Over the last several years, I have gotten to know some of you, see your work, gain appreciation. We have seen the future, and my final word is the future is good. Thank you all very much, and congratulations.